Hello, post-break people. I'm going to keep talking until yes, this is working. So yeah, I want to dive right in. So this is Great Big Story. Okay, so you guys did pretty good. I had at least 80% of you for all of that, which is a good signal and a good way to break into this. So I started right in with a video from Great Big Story, and not only did I end up sharing it with all of you, but we ended up picking up some people around the edge, which is also something I'll share with you, is that a lot of our stories are not only watched all the way through, but aggressively shared because people feel really good about sharing it. Great Big Story is probably, I think, the youngest brand within the Turner CNN portfolio. It was launched almost about 3 years ago to fill a space to create stories to express the wonder in the world, to make people feel good about opportunities, positivity, humanity, to feed curiosity. And so every day, Great Big Story produces at least 2 mini documentaries that are 2 to 3 minutes in length. So what you just saw is a branded content piece told through the stylistic trend of Great Big Story, but produced by our branded content agency, Courageous. And it uses all of the components that you've heard discussed up until this point today. It's a philosophy. It's native because that's how Great Big Story tells stories. It's visually rich because we are a broadcast company and we have access to the world's best storytellers around the world. At this point, Great Big Story has told stories from over 100 countries. So our audience, our core demo, is about 25 to 35 years old. They're encountering Great Big Story, majority on social, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram. We do have a website, and we also have exposure on connected TV devices. Far and away, Facebook and YouTube are our biggest channels for distribution. Both people subscribing to our channels, but definitely sharing. And sharing, I have some stats for you on here. When we produce content for clients, it's long. So none of this is supposed to work on Facebook. You all just sat through a 2-minute ad, and a lot of people do. Why? Because we take the time, first and foremost, to tell the right stories for our clients. Intel gave us all the brand brief, and we sent our storytellers out and held them to the same incredibly high standards, not only to identify how to tell that story, but to tell it in absolutely the best way, and the results show. Outside of doing 2-minute mini documentaries every day, there are occasions where stories lend themselves to go much longer. And we had a situation like that recently working with Procter & Gamble. And I'm gonna show you something else. This is a little wrap up of the So The Words Matter was ended up being an 18-minute film, significantly longer than our daily production, but there was a story that just kept evolving. Brent Miller from Procter & Gamble is in the corporate communications team. He came to us, we were talking. He had the seed of this story, And then in working with our storytellers, we expanded and we were able to actually open up and find out a lot of linkages within Procter & Gamble that brought this to life, and you should check it out. It's worth watching. It is actually really interesting and informational, and so powerful that P&G was willing to tell this story. So powerful that we are so happy that we won a Silver Cannes Lion for this in this most recent Cannes Creative Festival. And in doing this, this is again what we're offering in a moment where everyone will tell you it has to be quick, fast, now. Yes, that exists. There is a place for that, and that is real. I would argue to you, and we see regularly, that there is a desire and a real appetite for deep and meaningful understanding. And increasingly, the next wave of consumers want to put their money behind brands that stand for something that they align with. And to really show what you align for, I think it's vehicles like this that we've created with P&G. Now, I started by showing you the Lee Scratch Perry Intel video. That was 100% branded content. You saw the Intel bug. I shared with you P&G and Words Matter, which was almost a full feature. We call that a great big film. This that I want to show you is more of what we do. I would say this is probably 60% of what we do. So if you watch any great big story, they will all start that way. It'll open up with a teaser, a little preface of what the story is going to be, and then you get the title card. This is work that we did with Genesis. We are now 2 years in on working with Genesis, and the program started with almost the launch of Great Big Story and the launch of this new vehicle. And in conversation with them and understanding what their goals were, we realized that they were about to create a new brand, so were we, and that curiosity being an anchor in our ethos, that people have curiosity about how things start. So we created a channel within Great Big Story called Origins, which gives us the editorial license to find and discover stories about all kinds of things and how they began and the origins of them. And a certain percentage of those stories were related to Korean culture because Genesis is a Korean brand. And so now for 2 years, we've been running an Origins channel sponsored by Genesis, and on all of the origin stories it will say, inspired by or sponsored by Genesis. So how do you grow a partnership like that? We continued with the Origins channel, and this year we announced a film scholarship to identify young filmmakers out in the world to come in, and we, with Genesis, would support them on being great storytellers. And in this way, we extend beyond the pieces that we produce to inspire the next generation to tell great stories. Unfortunately, with the boom of native and very powerful smartphones that take great photos, there's a lot of not so great content out there. And so it's easy to go to quick and cheap, but it's like low-calorie food. You don't want to waste your time on it, or maybe it's a little fatty and not so good for you. But when you stop and you really invest in high-quality protein food or high-quality production, you can make a meaningful impact that has legs. I think extending beyond just the production and social distribution into events like, you may have saw a brief clip on it, when we did the Words Matter piece, we reached out to our communities that were engaged in this and did panel discussions. With this Genesis piece, we're reaching out to young filmmakers and engaging them on behalf of Genesis. So we're creating legs for these pieces that go beyond the consumers that saw them and engaging in other ways, which makes this pretty exciting. in the Genesis campaign, we look at, and for all campaigns, the comments and the attitudes that people have about experiencing the pieces. And here you'll see, well, it's a little small, I guess, but there's a lot of love. The big one is love. And there's a lot of enjoy. Overall, you'll see that if you look at commentary around our pieces, not only do people express emotions of joy and pleasure, the action verbs come in. So we say with Great Big Story, our fans love and do. I want to go there. I want to learn that. I want to understand this. It's not just share. The do isn't, I just emailed this to my brother. The do is, I mean, we've had people email us and say, can you put me in touch with that person? Because you probably started to see we're character-centric. We put a person in the front. That makes it incredibly relatable and authentic. And we're almost creating personal connections for people in countries, far across the world. The other thing that's really interesting about this emotional graph is that we track this for a variety of things. So when brands come to us and have attributes that they want to line up against, we can go into our archives and curate past editorial that we've done and create sponsored edit opportunities to pass forward. That's easy, turnkey. Or the absolute complexity like we did with Procter & Gamble. I only have like 4 more minutes, and I did want to create a moment for any questions, so I'll stop right now. If anybody has any questions, I'm happy to answer them for you. I did not play chess, but my husband does work at LinkedIn. Oh, surprise, surprise. The gentleman on the right side. Can I have a layup, please? Your questions seem to be getting more difficult, so I'm worried.
That's because you're amazing. So.
Oh, thank you.
It's just like when you take the GMAT. The better you do, the harder the questions get.
Oh shit! I went to LSU, so don't give me standardized tests.
No, you're amazing. So you should have more confidence in yourself. But my question's actually not that difficult. I think. I hope not. Anyway. But when you have a controversial story like the Procter & Gamble, right? How do you work with the client to get them to realize that, hey, the story you want to tell and the story that can best tell you, because that's a difficult conversation to have. So I was just wondering if you can give some insight on that process.
Yeah, well, this one with Procter & Gamble was such a fantastic invitation because they were wrangling, they brought this hard topic to us. They wanted to tell the story. And I give Brent a ton of credit because I think he intrinsically understood that if they told that story the right way, it shows that that evolution that P&G made. And by the way, I mean, if you watch the whole documentary, this was before it was legally required to have sexual orientation in. So P&G was